Thanks, Emra. Can you all see me? There we go. Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm David Iscove. I'm the practice lead of creative technology for Cella. I've got a lot of ground to cover in this tech lab in only 20 minutes, so we're going to dig in. Today we're talking about bridging the gap between marketing, your marketing teams and your photo studio teams. So discussing some of the nuanced needs of between each group and how to create a symbiotic relationship as well. So for those of you that, first a little background, for those of you that aren't familiar with Cella, we are focused on everything related to optimizing your in-house agency. So our clients are very large Fortune 500 brands. We are the industry leader staffing provider in regards to creative marketing and digital talent. And also our secret sauce is we have a very strong consulting group where we're all former creative operations professionals ourselves. So we are set up we see a lot we see a range of clients in regards to like what's under the hood. And a lot of our strategy has been designed by both our own mistakes and how we help our clients avoid those gaps as well in the future. So when we focus on technologies and systems of record, virtually all companies have what's called tier one systems that support major areas of the business so that they can operate with both precision and certainty. So whether it be financials or customer data, people, your IT systems, all of these systems provide the organization with accurate and critical details that are needed to run the business. And only recently has work itself, the work that the organization produces, moved to become considered a tier one asset. Every modern enterprise should orchestrate work with the same precision and certainty that it runs the rest of the business with. So this is really where tools like enterprise work management, which is synonymous with enterprise project management. You'll hear me using those two terms interchangeably throughout this speak today. That's really where that's emerged, and that system type that plans your work, that aligns your work, makes sure that it's choreographed and measured. That's really the system of record where the marketing group lives. So when we dive into the marketing system of record, what you see in purple here are the primary users that are interacting with this platform. And in pink, we see the functional roles and experiences, features that the platform provides to these users. Now, one thing to note here is that even though we say like a single source of truth in one single platform, it's actually a misnomer that it has to be one technology. More often than not, we see a holistic connected ecosystem where that single source of truth is more so like the parent that's managing a bunch of children, that each children has a specialty and a unique function that it performs for the organization. So what's important to note here is that this single source of truth is more so an aggregating tool to track the overall work of the organization. And sometimes that work needs to be executed, like in the execution phase of the marketing system of record, that may need to be executed in a different tool, whether that be a creative application or studio production management tool, because we want to provide our end users, everybody, with the tools that they want to be in and day out. When we look at process, this is the phased approach to the standard marketing process. No matter the brand, no matter the sector that brand plays in, these are the typical milestones and phases that occur within the marketing lifecycle. So starting from strategy and intake, where requests for marketing and creative content are generated, you have a planning phase where you put strategy against it. The align and creation phase, that's our creative execution portion. We then come back to review and approval, storage and sharing, and then delivery of that content outbound to the various channels that it was intended to target. And then finally, where we measure and optimize the performance of that creative. Now, that measure and optimize phase is very important because that then goes back to inform the strategy and intake on future work, and thus we create this loop of continuous improvement. When we look at the photo studio process, these are the major phases of the life cycle, and this is probably very common with the majority of you on this call. It's similar to, or portions of it are similar to what we see in the marketing process, but it's also very nuanced. There are phases within the photo studio process that are not in the marketing process and are more granular in regards to the needs and of what each phase accomplishes. So when we overlay our marketing process on top of our photo studio process, we see actually a direct relationship between the parent and child from a process perspective. So we go starting from the marketing on our marketing rail. When we're at the align and create phase of marketing, that's the entirety of the photo studio process. So align and create, that big execution bucket term for marketing, is when all of the phases within the photo studio process takes. Once we actually have a photograph or an image that's ready for client feedback or approval, that's when then we realign with our marketing process in the review and approve phase of the marketing process. And now we're back in sync. Once we have final approval of that image, the studio delivers outbound, and then we're in the storage and sharing aspect of the process. But what's important to note is that there are nuanced details of studio operations that can't just fit into the general approach of the marketing process. And the same thing goes for the tools that we use to support each process as well. When we look at enterprise photography production, these are the main anchor platforms from a technology perspective. So again, starting on with the intake of photography requests, typically that's done through enterprise work management or project management solutions. But you also have product data feeds from product information management, PIM systems, PLM systems, studio production management. This is where we're focused on the granular details. This is your operating system for the studio. So this is where you're focused on sample management, the creation of shot lists, the assignment of production schedules, et cetera. We then create the asset, and then we move into different tools that support post-production and the various needs around the asset lifecycle related to work in progress of the asset. So making selects, retouching, review and approval, et cetera. DAM, digital asset management, historically, the historic context of DAM for most enterprise organizations has been library repository of finalized assets. So once the work in progress is approved, it goes into the DAM for global distribution by the enterprise. And so various teams know that this is our location that we can pick up assets that have already been approved for our use against whatever term requirements are afforded. And then finally, CMS, your content management system. These are the technologies that push content out to the web and publish. So when we look at the relationship between marketing and studio, we're really talking about the relationship of from a tech perspective, the system of record of each, work management being the system of record for marketing, and then studio production management being the system of record or the tool for studio. And when we talk about collaboration and even look to integrate these tools, it's important to recognize the various functions that each one is designed to support. So in the case of work management, you're really talking about the high level tracking of your overall campaign. With that, you have intake and the submission of briefs. You're very able to manage an integrated campaign that has multiple deliverables associated with it, of which photography might just be one of those deliverable types, but you might also be producing video, email, et cetera. Delivery of product list to set. So we oftentimes see, a merchandising team or a buying team as a subset of marketing submitting a request for creative content. That request submission is typically is optimized to be handled by the work management system as well. And then finally, overall shoot status monitoring. So the marketing team wants to know the status of a particular shoot or photography request that they've submitted. They want to be in the tool that they are in and day out to track all of the other, the status of all of the other requests that they've provided as well. So that's work management, project management. When we get into studio production management, we're talking about the nuanced needs of the studio, so sample tracking, the style out process, integration with capture technology, and the flow of assets throughout the entire post-production process. A lot of times clients come to us and say, hey, I need to manage a shoot. I've got project management software or work management software. Can I just use my project management system to do it? And the answer is not really, or actually no. And it's specifically because each of these platform types are designed to handle different functional needs from a reporting perspective. And it gets down to, without getting too technical, even though this is the TechLab, it really results in, it's based on the data objects that each platform is focused on. So in regards to our work management, we may have the need to track a singular shoot. And that shoot may be a job, or it may be a task in a multi-deliverable campaign project, etc. When the studio team gets that shoot, they interpret the shoot to be, oh, well, that shoot means 100 SKUs or more. And for each of those SKUs, we need 4 or 5 X numbers of shots. So what ends up happening is that the relationship of data objects just starts to explode exponentially. So our singular shoot data object that's managed in our project management system can become thousands of data objects managed in the studio production management system. And because of those thousands of objects are really important for the studio team to manage, you can't do it effectively in your project management tool. So when we look towards integrating these two platform types, we have to consider all of the various inputs, all of the various needs that we want to provide for each of the teams that are supporting this. And we come up with different use cases. Perhaps marketing submits a request for product photography along with a list of SKUs in their project management system. That then creates a placeholder in the studio production management system for the photo team to accept and then work on. We can also coordinate and summarize the total status of samples checked in the studio. That can be summarized in our project management system for the merch team to say, oh, I see that you are 50% of the way through sample check-in for this request that I made. Same thing goes with the individual product status. All of that detail being tracked in the studio production management system, it can be summarized and aggregated to deliver a total percentage of completion back to the clients who requested, the marketing teams who requested that. So of my request for this editorial shoot, I see that you are 75% of the way done, 50% of the way done, et cetera. And this last piece is really exciting too, is that in our project management system, there's a lot of really strong metadata that's associated with project details and tracking. Studio production management tools are so good at embedding metadata into the files for downstream use that by integrating our project management tool with our studio production management tool, we can capture all of that really valuable project data and embed it in our files as well for downstream access going forward. When we look at the various differences between e-com and editorial, we see that they are different beasts in and of themselves. But there are certain similarities that we can leverage between the two workflows that can apply to an integration between project management and studio production management, whether you're shooting e-com or editorial. So I want to provide just some snapshots in regards to examples of how we've done this. So what I'm going to demonstrate here is an integration that we've built out between Workfront and tools like Creative Force. So here we've got this is a case where the marketing team has submitted so here's a request for photography has been submitted in Workfront. The request itself is converted into a task. So task 71 here, we see HGG 5878, that's our photography request. Creative Force receives that request and can then deliver subtasks back into Workfront that delivers status on each of the individual products associated with that request. If you want more information, if the marketing team wants more information on a particular product, Creative Force is also delivering the URL back to that particular task so that the user can then click on that URL and they're brought to Creative Force and see more information. Notice here, we're not actually delivering the asset back into Workfront, but we're simply linking the various information that needs to create throughput for the various tools and allowing each tool to function in the best way that it can. In the case of editorial, we have additional complexity that we need to make sure that we track when we do an integration. So here's an example of how we've integrated Workfront to Creative Force in an editorial or lifestyle context. So a marketing team comes in, submits a request for lifestyle photography within Workfront. They include all information that is capable, that they're aware of at the point of the request, even including a list of products that they know that they want to include in the request, the shot request as well, along with deliverable types and channel needs as well. All of that information that's submitted in the Workfront request can transfer over to Creative Force. And along with, if the product information is supplied there, we have, because Creative Force has an integration with a PIM lookup, we are pulling in all of the product information and providing a status update on the product that was submitted in the Workfront request. When the editorial request is delivered to Creative Force, the studio team has exactly what they need, and they can be in the tool that they want to be in and see all of the functionality that they need to track against that editorial request. Especially if they're capturing e-com photography in the same application, this is a great way to align thumbnails and e-com and product information to the editorial deliverables that are being tracked. All the while summarizing the status of each deliverable back into Workfront. So what you see, Creative Force here has also now created subtasks on that shot request in Workfront, where we can report back on the status of our Instagram request or our Facebook request, what have you, with the same linking of the URL back to Creative Force for additional detail that's required. But in this way, we're allowing each team to be in the tools that they are in day in and day out and supplying a very efficient reporting mechanism back to the system of record appropriately. So the aggregate work of the studio, what they're doing, can summarize back to the marketing team without actually having them to manually report, manually say anything. The marketing team gets a snapshot of where they're at with the overall campaign, and we're good. We're stepping our way towards overall operational efficiency. So we're at 20 minutes, super fast. We don't have time for questions right now, unfortunately, but I'll be hanging out in the lounge after this to I'd be happy to talk to anybody if you have any questions, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for tuning in.